Hey crypto traders, checking in on the cryptocurrency space. Congrats to the bulls in a big way. So we have a short-term bull break and the narrative is still alive for Bitcoin to potentially be a safe haven. That narrative took a huge hit when fear just struck everything. Those of you that stood in front of that speeding train of bearish dump deserve big time props for buying that dip and being rewarded for that. Obviously, very high risk comes very high reward. So dip buyers being significantly rewarded. I was not a dip buyer in this situation. I was one of the people where most people in the financial world it was like a turtle. I just put my arms and my legs and my head in and just rode it out. And for me and my financial situation, the most important thing was I need to protect these funds and not take any high risk trades with them because friends and family and community may need bailout in the next month or so. And I'm still in that mindset where, it's hard for me to risk capital in a very high risk, high reward environment with all this volatility going around when I know how useful that capital could be to people where, $500, $1,000 makes all the difference in the world. So I personally am still keeping that protective mindset, but those of you that were able to have that aggressive action on this dump, again, deserve big time props because that is not an easy thing to do. And that conviction being rewarded is nice to see, even though I was not one being rewarded for my own conviction. So pat on the back for all of you. So I still have a long-term position in the cryptocurrency space. I lightened up on the 6,400 break to the downside. But what I have right now is either Bitcoin to 100,000 plus or Bitcoin to zero. So now it is truly a no-touch position. And I also have capital that I still have allocated on the side to bail from US dollars into the crypto space if I need to. So right now, the way that I am seeing things in my perception of the current market environment, and again, there's a lot of channels out there that are covering the potential worst case scenario for the current financial system, which is of course best case scenario for Bitcoin in the cryptocurrency space. There's a lot of channels putting out a lot of good information there, whether it's Nuggets News and the guests that they have on and their own channels. But the way that I perceive that information is, yes, that is a possibility, and we have to prepare for that possibility, which is why I have capital ready and waiting to go. We've seen globally, economically, everybody is rushing to the life raft of the dollar. And while that causes the price of the dollar to go up and can initially show signs of strength, of course, there is the risk of there not being enough supply of the dollar to meet all of the global demand of everybody now fleeing to it as everybody's own currencies are dumping significantly. So the way I view it right now is it's a battle between the dollar, life raft, and Bitcoin being the life raft. So best case for Bitcoin is a hole being popped in the dollar's life raft. And I think that's only something, again, for me, it's not the most likely scenario. Yes, the markets are not fair. Yes, the Federal Reserve is rigging the markets and maybe they're doing a whole bunch of things that a lot of people don't like. But I also feel it's a more probable scenario. So possibility, absolutely. But probability, is it more likely that they are able to bail themselves out enough to be able to hold down this global financial control? Or does the whole entire system collapse and Bitcoin rises to the top in triumph? So while that is a possibility that I am prepared for, I do not think it is the most probable scenario in the short term. And we're not going to know that for months and potentially, 6-12 months down the road to see how this does all play out. And there's also a lot of unknowns. What if we do see a drug that has efficacy against fighting coronavirus and it lowers the recovery time to 5 days and now hospitals are not worried about being overwhelmed? What if we see these kinds of very quick game changers that shift the longer term impact of all of this? So again, I right now, I'm buying stocks in my IRA. I've been sitting in cash because I have not trusted the financial systems and I don't trust the government. But knowing that cash is there and I can't touch it without a tax penalty for 34 years, if I don't allocate some buying during these times, how can I ever look myself in the mirror if we ever do see the recovery and things work out fine? I'll be pretty glad that I'm buying. And if it goes to zero, that's something that I'm perfectly willing to accept. So that's my broader ramblings on where I stand right now. Yes, I'm keeping an eye on Bitcoin. Yes, I have capital ready to jump from one life raft to the other. If I see a hole in my life raft, there are some people who have already made that jump and they are potentially the early ones or they are potentially jumping on the wrong raft. And only time will tell who is right or not. Just always keep in mind when you're seeing all these varying opinions. We have best case scenario, worst case scenario, and a ton of in between. And more often than not, the in between is where reality falls. So it's going to be a very interesting 6-12 months from now watching this all play out. But nice to see that Bitcoin is back in the swing of things in terms of being in the conversation and regaining some trust. So a nice bull break with a daily higher low and the break of the double top at 6,000. And we're testing daily 12-period exponential resistance. And we are also testing the previous support, now resistance, of 6,430. So bulls are extremely strong today. We're no longer oversold on the daily. The weekly chart's going to give us an inside bar, very likely, unless some fireworks really start exploding. And we'll see how that weekly inside bar can break. So as far as I'm concerned, this is enough of a shift for me to consider this a daily trend change and that we are now in a daily uptrend. But now we just zoom out, knowing that even if the weekly inside bar breaks bullish, we will just be looking for a weekly lower high compared to 10,500. And there's a lot of space where that could form. And it's going to depend. It's going to just be determined by the bulls. How much follow through do we get? Do we go to 7,000? Or does this weekly bounce take us up to 9,500? Those are two very different scenarios as to what we would expect. And we're going to be watching for how much space is created on this weekly bounce. If we do break bullish, how much space is created, and can we change this weekly trend back in favor of the bulls? So that is certainly something we are watching as well. The dollar. Or no, this is not the dollar. This is Bitcoin dominance. And let's look at the dollar real quick. Might as well. We're talking about it. So DXY is measuring the US dollar against a basket of currencies. And right now that US dollar is breaking out in a huge way. And we are looking at 103.82. But if we zoom out to 2000 to 2002, we were trading up in the 120s on the dollar. So still a long way to go. 20% plus to where we were at during the 2000 and 2001 tech bubble. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. The daily chart getting very overextended. Question is, how much does this keep ramping up, showing us the continued jumping on, piling on to that life raft. So the dominance chart for Bitcoin is testing short-term resistance, and this is notable for me, this solid green day. Why is this notable? Because all of our previous solid bull moves have been on crypto drops, where Bitcoin is dropping less than the altcoins. And right now we're seeing, today, Bitcoin's breaking bullish comparative to those altcoins. So that's the first time on this entire span that it has notably stood out to me as that being the reason. It's Bitcoin leading the way as a bull. And to me, that's just confidence. So you have confidence in the cryptocurrency space, you have confidence in Bitcoin, and you have confidence in altcoins. And in my opinion, when you see the whole space take a big confidence hit, like we saw on that dump, Bitcoin's going to be the first to gain that confidence back. And then maybe once things are okay and sunshine and rainbows with Bitcoin again, then people are going to start being more confident in the higher risk cryptocurrencies. So it's all different varying levels of confidence and trust. And Bitcoin still is the top dog as far as the sector is concerned. ETH. So we have a different scenario of all these names we're going to look at. A lot of these names have broken the top of their initial bounce, and a lot of names have not. And that has in part to do by how big was this significant, how significant was the first bounce that we saw. The names that saw a more significant bounce on the first attempt a week ago, they are struggling a little bit more to break that resistance because it was further away when we then consolidated back down. So you'll see what I mean as we go through this. But ETH, the top of that initial bounce was 148, and we have not broken that level yet. So that's a clear resistance still, and we are not as strong as Bitcoin. And if we look at this ETH BTC chart, I bet it's breaking down. Not yet. So I had not looked at it. Still holding this support. This is a very key level because if that breaks, we are clearly resuming the downtrend where Bitcoin will continue significantly gaining against ETH. But if ETH can hold this here and start slowly gaining against Bitcoin, then we're going to look at an equilibrium and tightening daily range. So that is impressive that the ETH bulls are keeping up. That tells me the fact that we're sideways on that chart the last 2 days, that ETH is keeping up with BTC on this bounce. Litecoin. So LTC, the top of the initial bounce, 41.31. And we have not broken that level yet either. And again, we go back to Bitcoin and see what was that initial level. That was the 6,000 level that was so important in the short term, and we have broken it. So we can already see Bitcoin is over the initial top of the bounce, whereas the other two, ETH and LTC, they're not there yet. XRP USD, the top of the bounce was 1675, and we barely broke it, but we did break it. Daily 12-period exponential resistance is going to be our next key test. And also, the most important daily level from here is that higher low. We must hold this higher low the next time we consolidate across the board on everybody. And for Bitcoin, that level's down in the 4,400s, I believe, and for ETH. So that's just keeping track of the most important support, 150 cents. Because if these little higher lows break, we know we're right back to those dump lows. And for LTC, it's 29.17. So for XRP, it's 12.86. BNB, top of the bounce, clearly breaking. Little higher low and continuation. That higher low is 844. As far as next resistance levels go, we have to look at the dump, but we also didn't create a ton of resistance levels on the way down. I can see Binance does have a resistance here at 1270, so I would call 1270 the next resistance level, but just psychological levels after that, as there is big amounts of space because we dumped so hard on the way down. Bulls having a bit of an easier time on the way back up because we don't have a ton of previous price resistance at those levels. XTZ USD is one of the weaker bounces right now, just in the terms of not being anywhere near that top of 195. So we need another 20% to get to that resistance. So low, high of the initial bounce, higher low, but have not broken that resistance yet. 112 is the most important support, and that will be a key short-term resistance. For Link, same thing. So the higher low is 156. We gave the majority of the bounce back. We got within 3.5% of our low. Bitcoin did not drop as far. Actually, it did. I take that back. Bitcoin did drop that far, but again, Bitcoin's already over the top of the initial bounce. But 289 on Link would have to break. Otherwise, we're going to look at tightening ranges. Let's see if these names are 12-hour equilibriums. Nope. Too long a time frame. We'll just stick with the daily. BCH USD, very clear bull break. So the higher low on any daily consolidation, we have to hold 147. We are well above that at this point, and we went 10% plus. We went 15% over the bull break level. So again, we zoom out on all these names, and the vast majority are giving us weekly inside bars, which this candle is going to close in 3 days or so, 3.5 days. And then the question is, can these inside bars break bullish to see a weekly bounce, knowing that aside from any massive bull volume, we will be looking for weekly lower highs on all of these names. So if you are feeling FOMO as a bull, just know, again, we'll use Bitcoin as the example because everybody's doing it. Just know that, again, unless massive bull volume starts pouring in, we will just be looking for a weekly lower high. And it'll be the weekly trend change where we can really regain a lot of confidence in this crypto space. BSV USD, daily bull break, so higher low of 99.17, bull break of 131.46. Lots of follow through. You look at the weekly time frame, tons of space for that lower high to form, but significant strength for the bulls. As far as shorter term, I'm sticking to mostly midterm here. Shorter term, any consolidation that we see, we're just looking for a 4-hour higher low. Most names here have tons of space for that 4-hour higher low to form. For BTC, it's anything over 52.61, so we can pull back 15+% and still be looking to hold that level. And Bitcoin's not done yet. We have to lose short-term uptrends, and we're riding 5-minute exponential support. So BSV with the big bull break. Dash started early. Nice follow through. It has been a lead bull here. That was an initial clue. There were a few other altcoins that got an initial bull break as well. The top was 54.79, and here we are way above that level. So again, on the daily, anything above 38.08 will be a daily higher low. A bit of an advanced bounce, but still setting up for the potential of a weekly inside bar, and even if it breaks bullish, just looking for the weekly lower high. And then we need the weekly trend change. It's going to be a very interesting spring in the crypto space. So I appreciate you all watching. We will continue to keep an eye on things, certainly confidence in the space, keeping an eye on the dollar. I am no macroeconomic expert by any means, so I know my opinion doesn't hold a whole lot of weight. That is just where I personally stand, keeping an eye on how this entire economic situation continues to play out. I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to do good pivot. You know what I'm going to say. See you next time. There's one more thing I wanted to mention. Again, Bitcoin giving clues for the broader market. I have no idea why something monetarily the size of the cryptocurrency space and a Bitcoin's market cap would influence the broader S&P 500 of so many trillions of billions of dollars. But multiple times in the last week, with yesterday being a clear example, the market opens at 9:30. At 9:28, Bitcoin had a notable bull volume spike and ran up 3% plus in 2 minutes. At that point, right before the bell rang, the S&P 500 was looking like this. And then right when the bell rang, the S&P 500 did this and ran up 3% plus, and then they both ran up for the morning. But Bitcoin signaled it 2 minutes before the bell rang. It was literally a 90 to 120 second heads up. And that's something that we need to keep an eye on because, again, it's not the first example. That's now maybe the 4th plus example in the last week that we have been seeing. Confidence has returned to Bitcoin in the crypto space faster than it has returned to the stock market, to oil, and even to gold. Burning some frankincense from TheChartGuys member Awoke. These are some tomatoes that a TheChartGuys member gave to me during the meetup from Canada. I've got about a dozen varieties of tomatoes to go this year. I don't know where Mama Duck is. So here is the little lesson on weeds. You see these nice manicured bushes and all this stuff looks like weeds. So I didn't plant any of this, but I've been eating it every night with dinner. We have some little wild onion scallion guys here. We've got some purple dead nettles. So all these little purple guys, they're good pollinators early in the spring, but they're also edible and some good medicinal benefits with them. And then back in here, you've got chickweed. So this chickweed is also edible. So every night I make a grain or whatever with dinner and some protein and come out here and just pick a bunch of these weeds and put them in the pan with some butter or coconut oil, put some salt on them. Good to go.